And for more on this story, the Concerned Veterans for America organization posting this on X. 3 U.S. soldiers lost their lives and dozens, including activated National Guard members, were injured in Jordan. Their families and the American public need to understand the purpose behind the risk. What legal authority justifies their mission? We need answers from POTUS regarding the rationale behind uprooting reservists from their civilian lives to position them within drone range of Iranian proxies.
Okay, joining us now to discuss are 2 senior advisors for Concerned Veterans for America, Jason Beardsley and John Burns. Jason, I'm going to start with you. What should this response be? And then also elaborate for us, should this have even gotten to this point?
Well, let me start with that. First, condolences to the families. It's a tragedy, and we see these reservists who are usually supplementary forces in harm's way. And as the tweet suggests from our organization, we need to know what the purpose is and what the legal authorities are. And then the question about what should our response be. The United States has a range of tools available to it, but I would suggest that any kinetic strike, if it's not met with a grand strategy that has a policy behind it, that's got political backing and the force of Congress, the resolution, as well as the intelligence community and our economic interests at stake, will be ineffective. Bear in mind, the Houthis have been under about 10 years of constant bombing campaigns from Saudi Arabia. It has not stopped the rebel sort of alliance there that controls the ports and Sana'a. So it's not that a clear case of kinetic strike will end or complete the deterrence, but it's one tool of that. If we don't do the other tools, which includes positioning our forces with advantage rather than leaving them in harm's way, then we're going to be looking at what you heard the White House say they don't want, which is escalation.
John, there was an interesting part out of the Pentagon or Department of Defense press conference today that I want to ask your opinion about. We did learn from Major General Patrick Ryder that these 3 fallen soldiers were not in a combat unit, but rather part of a regional security and stability unit, actually there to help. And that just seems to, of course, make it even worse. And that is a new fact that I hadn't heard about before. Does this change the reaction at all?
Well,
what the reaction
I'm not sure
be?
I'm not sure it's a fact. I know it's a statement by a general, but if this is a regional security reconstruction mission, then there should be public documentation of it. The fact that we had, a couple of companies, a few hundred soldiers from an MP company and from an engineer company from the U.S. National Guard and the U.S. Army Reserve combined in Jordan that nobody knew about is very, very troubling. And as Jason highlighted, there doesn't seem to be any strategy that's connected to this. It's terrible that we lost the lives of these young men. And women. It's even worse that they're members of the U.S. Army Reserve and that among the injured are both U.S. Army Reserve and U.S. National Guard troops. 50 years ago, when we went to the all-volunteer force and we created the total force strategy for the Army in particular, the idea was that we wouldn't be risking young men and women from the reserve component for anything less than for national interest. And over the last 20 plus years in the global war on terror and other operations, that just kind of creeped forward. And now being part of the reserve or being part of the National Guard is the same as being part of any other military unit. You're just as at risk, and it shouldn't be that way.
All right, Jason Beardsley, John Burns, still a lot more questions than answers at this point. Thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.